Not too many people like conflict, yet we know there's always going to be conflict in our lives. Only dead people have no conflict. So how do we deal with conflict? Well, sometimes we just ignore it. We don't deal with it. Other times we just jump in, full speed going through and blast the person for whatever they did to us. And Jesus today in the gospel presents us his own way to resolve conflict. But what's interesting about the way of Jesus is not about who's right and who's wrong, or about the person whose feelings were hurt or the offense was done against them. It is about the person who sinned and the way to save that person. How often we think that way when we're in the midst of conflict with someone else. The purpose is the salvation of the person who committed the sin, who's in the wrong. And Jesus tells us our responsibility is to go to that person and let him know. Not because how it hurt us, although we can tell him that, but our goal is to help the person recognize the errors of his or her ways and repent, reform their ways. And if that doesn't work, then we bring two other witnesses, two other people who can talk to the person and help them recognize their issue. And then if that doesn't work, then we bring it to the church. Now remember, at the time the Gospels were written, the churches were maybe 30, 40, 50 people. We're not talking about thousands of people. And the point, again, is not to shame the person or to make him feel guilty or put pressure on them. It's their salvation. Then if that doesn't work, Jesus says, treat him like a Gentile or a tax collector. And we might think that means, that's it. You have nothing to do with them. But how did Jesus treat the sinners and tax collectors? He associated with them. He ate with them. He visited their homes. In other words, Jesus telling us is then you have to start all over helping that person encounter Christ and live in the Christian way that Jesus taught us. It's not like you wash your hands of this person, but you help them to guide them to Christ so Christ can help them deal with their issue. I think maybe the closest way that today we practice the way of Jesus is with, interventions. Someone is alcoholic or has an addiction. Usually, the spouse, the siblings, best friends, they try to talk to the person, and that if that doesn't work, then they have a group of people come in and intervene and help that person to recognize their issue, that he or she needs to go get help, that he has a problem. And that's what Jesus is trying to tell us, how we should deal with conflict. It's not about us. What we have to do, if we're hurt, we have to forgive. That's how we heal, by letting go of the hurt and focusing on really the person and what they need to do to change their ways, to be saved, so that one day they too can be in heaven with us.